Welcome back. Let's talk about another case that is, of course, had been in the court for about 12 years. Former Abia State Governor and sitting Senate Chief Whip, Senator Orji Kalu, has now joined the League of Ex-Governors convicted of corruption. Kalu has bagged a concurrent jail term of 12 years after he was found guilty of 7.6 billion naira fraud preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. He was convicted alongside his firm Slok Nigeria Limited and Jones Udogo, who served under him as the Director or Commissioner of Finance and Accounts. Commissioner of Finance, of course, during his tenure as Abia State Governor from 1999 to 2007. The EFCC had alleged that Kalu procured his company from funds, procured for his companies now from funds illegally diverted from the treasury of the Abia State government, while Udogo was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. The judge ordered the winding up of Slok Nigeria Limited, holding that its assets and property should be forfeited to the government of Nigeria. Now, this is one judgment that, many people will tell you they did not see coming for obvious reasons. The trial lasted, as I said earlier, for 12 years when Senator Orji Kalu was still a member of the People's Democratic Party. He's since actually joined the ruling All Progressives Congress and is a sitting senator under the platform of the APC. However, this is one judgment that some people have said should be celebrated. Joining me now on the program to discuss more on this is a former Vice President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Onyekachi Ubani, who joins me from another part of Lagos. Mr. Ubani, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Is this one case that should be celebrated?
Well, I think for the prosecution, they may want to celebrate the judgment. Orji is not a small fry. He's a high, respected person in this government. He's the chief whip of the Senate, which you have rightly pointed out. And if EFCC succeed in getting convicted a politically exposed individual in the person of OUK, and that is Orji Kalu, they may want to celebrate it. Of course, the accusation against the EFCC most times is that they celebrate conviction of these Yahoo boys and not the politicians that the EFCC was set up for. So, if they have succeeded in getting one of the politicians down, they may want to celebrate it.
What do you think this? What would you say this means now for Nigeria's fight against corruption?
Well, the fight is on, but you know that this particular case did not start under this administration. The only thing is that, they revived it and continued with it. Before the coming of this particular government, this case was already in court, and some of us were complaining about how slow the judicial process has been with some of the trials, of the ex-governors from 2007. Now, remember that in 2015, Administration of Criminal Justice Act was passed, which also removed most of those obstacles that was actually hindering the speedy dispensation of criminal justice. One of which is issue of stay of execution and then appeal on most of these matters that are purely interlocutory. Now, those things have been taken care of by that law. And so you now face the substantive trial. So it's no wonder that we are having speedy trial and dispensation of justice in most of these politically exposed individuals. So the Administration of Criminal Justice Act has actually played a role and contributed favorably towards this addressing the issue of dispensation of justice in a manner that you can consider very speedy.
Now, of course, Mr. Kalu has said he's appealing the judgment of the Federal High Court. As a lawyer, I want to ask you, why is it not the case that when you file an appeal of this nature, that you don't go to prison, you just wait until the appeal is heard? But in this case, he's gone to prison, as we also saw in other cases like that of Joshua Daria and, of course, Jolly Nyame of Taraba, the former governor of Taraba as well.
Yeah, I told you that the issue of stay of execution has actually been taken care of by the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. There is no issue of stay any longer. in criminal proceedings. So if you are convicted, you will go straight to prison, and then you can probably apply for your bail. And of course, the bail is not given as of right, because when you have become a convict, the law does not presume you to be innocent anymore. So the must be granted bail only on exceptional grounds. So, and it was also at the discretion of the court, which the court must exercise judicially and judiciously. So the proper thing now in administration of criminal justice is that the moment you are convicted, you have to go to prison. It is now called correctional center, during which you can pursue your appeal. And as I said earlier, if you are very fortunate to have your bail application granted by the appellate court, you may be outside and then pursue your appeal. So that is actually
okay. Now let me get this straight. If, for instance, if he won at the appeal court, he would come out of prison, and if the EFCC decides to appeal against the decision of the appeal court, he would be out of prison and fight that appeal, right?
That's correct, because at that point, the Court of Appeal has actually exercised its power in your favor, saying that you are not supposed to have been convicted in the first place. It's only when the Supreme Court now affirms the judgment of the lower court, I mean the lowest court now being the High Court, Federal High Court, where the case, where he was convicted, that he will now go back to prison in order to complete the prison term. But if the Supreme Court also upholds the judgment of the Court of Appeal, in which case he was asked to be pronounced innocent, then he will not in any way serve any prison term anymore, and he cannot be called ex-convict, in the eyes of the law. That is actually what is going on now. But as I said earlier, he still remains a senator, despite the fact that he has been convicted, because the Court of Appeal recently, that's handling tribunal matter, election matters, actually affirmed his election in 2019. And so he will remain a senator of the Federal Republic, and then will, even if possible, participate in the proceeding if he's granted bail until the final court of the land, which is the Supreme Court, says that he's guilty on all counts.
Besides being a lawyer, I know you're a political analyst as well. How damaging do you think this is politically for Orji Kalu?
Well, we have had people who have been convicted, for politics. The law also has a provision for him politically. He cannot run for any public office until after 10 years. That's if eventually his conviction is affirmed by the Supreme Court. He will be kept in political abeyance for 10 years, solid years, before he can run for any political office. And so that alone is damaging enough. If you are a politician, you are kept away from politics for a period of up to 10 years, that alone is very damaging for any politician who is an active politician like Orji Kalu. It is not something that one should be very proud of, being convicted, for a crime. But the good thing is that he still has appellate options. He has the constitutional right to appeal. And it's only when the appeal court, especially the Supreme Court, has the final say with regards to his condition now, then Orji can be now called, a convict. Already is a convict, but that name convict will become both in law and in logic when the Supreme Court affirms the conviction of the lower court. And
you think this is one case that will get up to the Supreme Court?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. With regards to the defense, if Orji Kalu loses at the Court of Appeal in order to obtain the conviction, I am too sure that Orji will want to proceed to the Supreme Court. It may be a different thing entirely if he is not convicted or affirmed at the Court of Appeal, whether the EFCC will want to go further to the Supreme Court. They may want to drop, or may not want to be interested in pursuing the matter anymore, up to Supreme Court level. But for the defense, if he loses at the Court of Appeal, I'm too sure that Orji will want to go to Supreme Court in order to ensure that his name is cleared concerning these offenses he's alleged to have committed. Or where it's no longer allegation, he committed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're absolutely right. No longer allegation because he's actually been convicted. Thank you very much, Mr. Obani, for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. DEJI. 360.
All right, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the 2020 budget. And go away. On DEJI 360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it. We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent.
Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that ballot.
DEJI 360, providing clarity to issues.